Hello guys, hola hola. I hope you're having a great week. Today I just woke up with the idea of making a video, sharing my thoughts on something I've been trying to figure out for a long time, for a while. And that's the naming, the labeling of my MPC sequences. I've noticed many people don't do it, and I can understand why. Some people don't like restrictions. They want to feel free, do whatever they want with their sequences when the time comes. Not thinking too much about the future. In my case, naming the sequences actually it made a huge difference once it became an essential part of my workflow. And let me tell you the names of my sequences, how I use them, and why. Okay, so we're gonna start with draft 1. Draft 1 is my sequence 1. Every time I start a project, this is where I'm working on. It's the most essential sequence. And basically, it's an idea. Once the idea is clear and I see potential, I explore, develop layers, and do as much as possible without moving to another sequence. I intentionally work on this draft, make it sound as big as possible, because 90% of the times it ends up as the hook of the song. This is gonna be my hook, right? And when the draft is not catchy or good enough, I just delete the file. I just get rid of everything. Like, if this one is not good, it doesn't worth moving forward. It's not gonna be a good song, right? And the intention is always to make a full song. I do lots of sound design and mixing once I'm in the draft. Draft number 1, lots of mixing, lots of listening, trying to make it sound as good as possible, as rich in content as possible. And well, it should feel like all my tracks are pumping. All the sounds are there for a reason, for a purpose, but all of them, all my tracks are playing there because of the mixing aspect of the workflow. I want to make sure this is the fullest sequence in the song, right? And I usually work on no more than 8 bars, but that depends on the type of track, right? Some tracks will require longer periods of time or for the hook, for the main idea. And I would say 16 is my maximum for a draft. Now we have draft number 1, and it's good enough. It feels good. And I've done everything I wanted. I copy. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna copy this draft 1 onto sequence 2. Name this sequence draft 2. The goal here is just to make a variation of draft 1. It has to be different, it has to feel different, but I won't touch things like the key, for example. It's a variation, right? So I'm just gonna change the groove and the chords, but never the key. If I change the key, that has to be done intentionally. It has to sound like it's done on purpose. I cannot drift away from the main idea too much, just a little bit. And well, I can remove elements or sounds that are not really necessary, but I don't really work on adding new stuff because that was something I wanted to do on draft 1. Remember, draft 1 is my big one in terms of sound, fullness, richness of the mix. Draft 2 is more of a variation, and that's it. I'll do this same thing, this exact same process. I'll do it for drafts 3 and 4. I'm gonna copy draft 1 onto sequence 3, draft 1 onto sequence 4, and create new variations, obviously different than number 2. And I need to end up with 4 main ideas that started from sequence number 1, like revolve around draft number 1, and they have to feel connected, like part of the same story. Now that we have these sequences 1 to 4 completed, after all the experimentation, all the jamming, this amazing experience that's like making music, right? Now we're gonna proceed to do the work, and we're gonna work on an arrangement. We have to arrange these 4 main ideas. We have to create like a story that involves them all, right? All these tracks, all these new tracks that we're gonna create now have to be copies of the drafts, but we're gonna remove elements. We're gonna do effect automation, we're gonna do mute automation, everything that we can in order to make them feel alive, right? And we have to think of these drafts as 4 main big dots that we have, and we have to connect these dots in order to create a song. If we want to have a full song, we have to create small variations of the drafts, right? So the drafts are the big dots, and the variations of the drafts are the little dots. They're connecting these 4 main big ideas, right? And remember, draft 1 ended up being my main 1A. For example, in this particular example, draft 1 was my main idea, so I called it main 1A. And I didn't reveal this in full until the very end of the song. Like in the very last sections, that's when I revealed my biggest hook, right? And the other drafts served as intros and verses with some edits and automation, connecting, helping to build up the song in order to reach main 1A, draft number 1. Easy. So now that you see the full arrangement, how it looks like, right? You can notice I got comfortable with adding numbers and lowercase letters to each of the sections. The number helps me identify how many times this particular section plays in the song, and the lowercase letter is for progression of that particular section, right? So for example, the intro, it could get bigger and bigger as we progress from A to B, later fade out in C. But I use these letters to see how it to identify the progression of it, if that makes any sense. This is pretty much what I do for my tracks, and I strongly recommend to anyone getting into the MPC beat making world, or anyone, not really naming sequences, to just do it, because it actually helps you organize your ideas and plan ahead. Of course, this works under the assumption that you're intending to complete a full song, full arrangement, and you'll do it in separate sessions. That is the best part about it. Like, you always know what you have to do next in order to finish your song, right? And even when you open the file after 2, 3, 4 weeks, like, where you are in this timeline, this process that's beat making, music making. Think about how many times you've forgotten what you had to do next, or what you wanted to do, what was the purpose, or because it feels different. If you open a track, if you open your music 3, 4 weeks later, 3 months later, a year later, you're gonna think different. You're gonna be maybe a different person with different ideas, in a different mood. So just to prevent that, name your sequences, keep labeling stuff, and indicate progression, and just have a plan. Basically, just have it's like a need. Maybe you don't want to have a notebook next to you. Many people do that, right? In regular daily life tasks or work, right? But yeah, sometimes this is a bit like work, because you have to organize yourself, or else you're never gonna complete anything. Remember, this is a very simple process. You just have to create 4 main big ideas, then work on connecting those ideas, going from intro to outro. That's all it is. So this is everything I wanted to say on this topic for now. But I can explain more and tell you more about my process more in depth, in future videos, of course. Let me know what you think. And if you have a better alternative method, because, I tried different strategies before, and this is the one that feels right for who I am and how I think about music. I just feel comfortable with this, right? But we're all different, and the MPC is full of possibilities. It's a great machine. It's not giving us any restrictions on, start with the intro, finish with the outro. The names are not there. Have a very nice day. Keep on making music. Let's share stuff. Having lots of fun making videos and making the comments. So I'll be around. See you in the next video. Take care.
Dr. Seaborg, what can we expect of computers in the future?